feel like we're in the driver's seat of our own mind, consciously navigating our lives. This conscious part of us, what we think of as I, is what the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung called the ego. It is the center of our identity, the voice in our head. But with a little introspection, we begin to suspect that we are not the only one giving orders. We realize we are often following a kind of built-in navigation system whose programming exceeds our immediate knowledge. We can see our immediate thoughts and feelings, but remain unaware of the complex system operating just beneath the surface. This deeper, vast, and mysterious system is the unconscious. If we don't attempt to familiarize ourselves with this internal guidance system, to understand how it functions and how to override it, we risk a journey that is aimless at best and disastrous at worst. We may find ourselves circling the same block for years, or heading towards a cliff we never intended to visit. The 20th century psychiatrist Carl Jung was one of the greatest explorers of this inner world, mapping the human psyche from the inside. His work provides more than just a map. It offers a guide for integrating the hidden parts of ourselves into a more meaningful, authentic, and complete life. To navigate our complex social world, we must adapt. From our earliest days, we learn to behave in certain ways to gain acceptance and fit in. This process of social adaptation leads us to develop what Jung called the persona. The term comes from the Latin word for the masks worn by actors in ancient theater, a fitting metaphor, as the persona is the public face we present to the world. It's a curated version of ourselves, designed to make a good impression and conceal parts of our true nature that we feel might be judged or rejected. You likely have different masks for different occasions, switching between them without a second thought. You have a professional persona where you are serious and competent. With your family, you might wear a different mask, perhaps that of the responsible caretaker. With friends, you may have another persona entirely, one that is witty and outgoing. These masks are not only useful, they are a necessary component of a functioning social life, a vital compromise between our individuality and the demands of society. A flexible persona allows us to interact smoothly with the world. The danger arises when we forget we are wearing a mask and mistake it for our actual face. This is what Jung called identification with the persona. We forget we are the actor and begin to believe we are the role we are playing. The doctor becomes nothing more than his clinical detachment. The artist sees herself as nothing but her creative output. This leads to a shallow existence, where our primary concern is not our own inner state, but what other people will think. This over-identification is the first major obstacle to self-knowledge, leaving a nagging sense of emptiness and the tragedy of an authentic nature that remains unlived. Once you begin to question the mask and look behind it, you inevitably encounter what Jung termed the shadow. He described it as the thing a person has no wish to be, the dark repository for everything we have disowned or repressed about ourselves. The shadow contains all the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors incompatible with our chosen persona. If our persona is kind and gentle, our shadow holds our capacity for aggression and anger. If our persona is disciplined and orderly, our shadow contains our chaotic and impulsive side. It's a natural human tendency to avoid this part of ourselves, preferring to see ourselves in a consistently positive light. But these traits do not simply disappear. Instead of looking inward, we often project the shadow onto other people. We see the flaws we deny in ourselves glaring back at us from those around us. That person at work whose arrogance drives you to distraction, they may be reflecting your own suppressed ambition. That group you judge harshly for being lazy, it might be pointing to your own desperate need for rest. Projection is a way of disowning our own darkness by fighting it in others. However, Jung insisted that the shadow is not purely negative. To see it that way is to miss its incredible power. The shadow is also the source of creativity, vitality, and raw authenticity. Buried within it are not just our weaknesses, but also our hidden strengths and untamed energy. An artist who has suppressed their ambition may find their creative drive locked away in the shadow. A person who is too agreeable will find their capacity for setting healthy boundaries hidden there. To deny the shadow is to cut ourselves off from a vast source of our own potential, leaving us one-sided and incomplete. The lifelong journey of integrating these conscious and unconscious parts into a unified whole is what Jung called individuation. It is the profound process of becoming a truly individual, an undivided, authentic being. This path is rarely chosen willingly. It often begins with a crisis, a devastating job loss, a painful breakup, or a deep sense of meaninglessness that makes the old way of living impossible. This suffering shatters the persona and forces us to question the life we have been living on autopilot. The first step is the conscious acknowledgement of the masks we wear. This means creating a flexible relationship with our social roles, understanding that we are not defined by our job or reputation. We can perform a role without being consumed by it. The second, more demanding step is shadow work. This requires what Jung called moral effort, a courageous commitment to self-knowledge, especially when it's uncomfortable. It begins with paying radical attention to our moods, impulses, and our strong emotional reactions to others. Tools like journaling and dream analysis are invaluable. Jung believed dreams are a direct communication from the unconscious, revealing hidden parts of ourselves through symbolic language. By reflecting on our dreams, we can begin a dialogue with our psyche. As this integration progresses, we reconcile other opposites within us. Jung identified the anima, the unconscious feminine in men, and the animus, the unconscious masculine in women. For a man, integrating his anima involves connecting with feeling and intuition. For a woman, integrating her animus means harnessing logic and assertiveness. This inner dialogue is the path toward reclaiming the disowned parts of ourselves. The ultimate objective of this lifelong process is not perfection, but wholeness. This wholeness is the realization of what Jung called the self with a capital S. While the ego is the center of our conscious mind, the self is the organizing principle of our entire psyche, encompassing both the conscious and unconscious. Jung saw the ego as a small circle floating within the much larger circle of the self. To become your true self is to shift the center of your personality from the limited ego to the expansive, stable self. This doesn't mean destroying the ego. A healthy ego is essential. Rather, it means the ego takes its proper place, serving something greater than itself, moving from being a king to a trusted advisor. Living from the self means you are guided by an inner authority, a deep sense of your own truth, rather than a need for external validation. You relate to the world from conscious choice instead of unconscious conformity. This shift leads to a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. When you accept all parts of yourself, the light and the dark, the persona and the shadow, you are no longer at war with your own nature. You move from internal conflict to one of integrity and self-compassion. This is the bedrock of true psychological maturity. Simply put, the journey of individuation is the task of becoming who you were always meant to be. It is a return to the authentic self that was there all along, buried under layers of social conditioning. It begins with recognizing you are more than your persona. It then leads to a courageous confrontation with your shadow, where you reclaim the lost and powerful parts of yourself. It culminates, over a lifetime, in the realization of the self, the true, stable center of your being. The reward for this journey is not a life free of hardship. The reward is a life lived with profound integrity, purpose, and a sense of completeness that cannot be shaken by external circumstance. As Jung suggested, one can strive for goodness, which is often a performance, or one can strive for wholeness, which is an honest embrace of all that we are. The path of individuation is the choice to be whole. It is the challenging but ultimately rewarding journey toward becoming the unique and complete person you were always meant to be.